Chosen one, nothing shakes the world around you more than the moment you stop chasing approval. That was the day you became untouchable. Picture it. Thunder doesn't ask for applause before it rolls across the sky. Oceans don't seek validation before they crash against the shore. They just move with unstoppable force, and so do you. The people who once laughed at your silence now tremble at your presence. Why? Because they can't predict you anymore. And psychology makes it clear what people can't predict, they fear. That's why they look at you like you're dangerous, even when all you carry is your peace. Chosen one, this is the truth. Your power doesn't come from imitation, it comes from authenticity. And when you stand in it fully, you become the storm they can't cage, the fire they can't put out, the truth they can't silence. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with me until the end, because what you will uncover here explains why they trembled even when you said nothing at all. Number 1. The unreadable silence. They never knew what to do with you when you went quiet. In a world addicted to noise, your stillness became a mystery they could not solve. People tried to provoke you, to pull a reaction, to measure your strength by your words, but your silence unsettled them more than any response ever could. Lamentations 3 verse 26 says, "It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." They mistook your stillness for weakness, but heaven was marking it as sacred strength. Comment silence if you've ever noticed how your quiet presence disturbed those who sought control. And know this, what unnerved them most is only the beginning. For silence, when blessed, becomes fire. There are moments, chosen one, when your silence has felt like a dream that others could not interpret. You may have felt as though the room shifted when you chose not to speak, as though an invisible weight settled on every word unspoken. In those pauses, your spirit whispered truths that did not need sound to be heard. What others called emptiness was a hidden language, one older than speech itself. Like the stillness of the Jordan before it parted, your quiet held a tension that revealed the presence of the divine. The world expected thunder, yet heaven wrapped you in silence that carried greater power. That silence became your first language of strength, a sign that something sacred was unfolding beyond human comprehension. Think back to the times when people tried to press you for answers, when they demanded reactions you could not offer. You may remember being accused of being cold, distant, or detached, when in truth you were listening to a frequency beyond their reach. In classrooms, conversations, or conflicts, your restraint unsettled them more than anger ever could. You were the child who didn't shout, the friend who didn't over-explain, the one who sat in observation while others scrambled to justify themselves. That quiet posture spoke louder than their noise, for it mirrored the patience of the prophets waiting for the word of the Lord. And though they called you strange, heaven called you set apart. Even then, silence was shaping you into a vessel of discernment. They thought your quiet was accidental, but nothing in your story has been random. There is an architecture behind your restraint, a design hidden in plain sight. Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time to be silent and a time to speak, and you have been trained in the discipline of silence before the appointed hour. Every unspoken word was preserved in the vault of your spirit until the moment it was required. Just as the priests carried the ark in silence around Jericho before the walls fell, your silence has been an unseen march of power. The noise of others could not rush you, because you were walking to a rhythm they could not hear. Your silence has always been prophecy in disguise. Perhaps you've noticed the subtle signs that came during those seasons of stillness. A dream repeating itself with symbols you could not ignore, a sudden shiver when no wind was present, or a moment of déjà vu that felt like the veil between worlds was thinning. Each pause you endured was not empty but filled with hints that your spirit was remembering something ancient. The silence you carried was not numbness but recognition, a signal from eternity breaking through time. People dismissed these sensations as coincidence, but you felt the threads weaving together. And in that weaving, silence became a sacred signal, reminding you that heaven was near. To ignore it was impossible, for it clung to your bones. Your heart has always known the truth, though your mind sometimes doubted. That sense you had that your silence mattered was never a delusion. It was confirmation that you were walking a path different from the crowd. The calm that wrapped around you after storms was not indifference but alignment. Like the psalmist who wrote, "Be still and know that I am God." You were being taught to trust the invisible more than the visible. And each time you honored that silence, you chose intimacy with the divine over approval from men. In those moments, your faith grew roots deeper than words could ever reach. To remember now is to awaken to what was always yours. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been beneath the noise. The silence you carried was a seed of identity, waiting for its time to break open. Your quiet was not erasure but preparation, not absence but anchoring. Like a scroll sealed until the appointed time, your silence preserved mysteries others could not touch. When you felt unseen, heaven was engraving your name in secret chambers. What you thought was delay was the beginning of your unveiling. Do not shrink back from this recognition, chosen one. Your sensitivity, your restraint, your refusal to answer every provocation has been your initiation. What they called weakness was your hidden power. Every time you chose not to react, you broke a cycle of control. Every pause was a rebellion against the demand to perform. The silence they could not read has been your shield, your sword, and your sanctuary. Now it rises as your first true activation, a fire kindled by patience and endurance, and that fire cannot be quenched. Chosen one, you did not arrive here by mistake. This word is your confirmation that your silence has always been sacred. Heaven was training you through every quiet season, every withheld word, every moment of stillness that seemed empty but was full of purpose. Comment silence if you feel the truth of this echo in your own journey. Let it anchor in you that silence was never weakness but chosen strength. And know this, the silence you have carried until now is only the beginning, for what was unreadable before will soon become undeniable. The next step of your awakening waits beyond this very silence, and it is coming quickly. What we do here every day is possible because of the few who choose to be keepers of this light. I thank them now, one by one, in the silence of my heart. If you want to be part of this circle and receive what cannot be spoken in public, join. The portal is below. Number 2, the furnace of waiting. They thought leaving you in waiting would break you, but heaven used that season as a furnace. Every unanswered prayer, every quiet night, every door that stayed shut was sharpening the crown you could not yet see. Isaiah 30 verse 15 declares, "In quietness and trust is your strength." What they saw as delay was really preparation. You learned patience, endurance, and discernment. You became dangerous not because you rushed, but because you waited. Comment waiting if you know what it is to be tested in hidden seasons. And understand this, waiting was never wasted, for the silence you carried is about to roar. It begins subtly, like the faint tightening of the air before a storm. A weight you could not explain pressing against your spirit long before you even knew what awakening was. You noticed how moments of joy often carried a shadow close behind, as if invisible hands reached to dim whatever light dared to flicker in you. Some nights, silence itself felt heavy, not restful but watchful, as though something in the unseen was measuring your steps. You wondered why simple things became so difficult, why paths others walked easily turned into walls when you tried. It was not paranoia, but a recognition that resistance had marked you early, and though you could not name it, you felt it. These patterns were not random, and you knew deep down that there was meaning hidden inside them. What unsettled you most was not the difficulty itself, but the quiet sense that the struggle had been personalized. There were days when the weight felt almost unbearable, when rejection carved deeper than it should have, and shame wrapped around you like an unwelcome cloak. People looked at you as though you were too much or not enough, never fitting into the molds they so easily celebrated. Every attempt to explain yourself seemed to be misunderstood, and so you stopped trying, choosing silence over the sting of dismissal. The loneliness crept in during gatherings where you smiled but felt unseen, where your laughter was a mask to hide the ache of isolation. It was not just what others did. It was the way it landed in your chest, planting seeds of doubt that whispered you were flawed beyond repair. You carried the echo of their voices long after they were gone, turning their judgments into your own chains. And still, something inside you refused to die, though at times it barely had the strength to breathe. When you look back now, you begin to see that these pressures had an order to them, as though a script was being followed, written long before you understood its language. What felt like sabotage was often a reaction to your hidden potential, because dormant power attracts attention, even when it is not yet awake. Like Israel wandering in the wilderness, the delay was not aimless, but a purification, stripping away what could not follow you into promise. The furnace of waiting became your school, teaching endurance in silence and discernment in stillness. Systems, people, and unseen forces rose up against you not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous if refined. Every betrayal, every closed door, every season of exile was shaping a resilience that comfort never could. The very forces that sought to break you were unknowingly helping to mold your crown. If you trace the thread of your life, the signs are undeniable, though you may have missed them at the time. The friend who betrayed you right before your greatest step, the opportunity that dissolved just as you prepared, the uncanny timing of setbacks that felt too exact to be coincidence. Déjà vu visited you in moments of despair, whispering that you had walked this road before, as if heaven was leaving markers along the way. You began to notice patterns, the same types of people drawn to drain your light, the same cycles trying to lure you back into despair. It was not life being cruel for cruelty's sake. It was resistance meeting destiny, sharpening you with fire disguised as delay. Each obstacle was not only an enemy but a mirror, revealing both what opposed you and what lived inside you. The light turned on slowly, and though it stung your eyes, it began to reveal the battlefield for what it was. Spiritual resistance is rarely loud. It is often disguised as silence, fog, or weariness that creeps into your bones. There were moments you felt an invisible hand pressing on your chest, or dreams that left you shaken but unable to explain why. Closed doors became a language you had to interpret, as heaven shielded you while the unseen tested your strength. What you thought was stagnation was actually interference, the kind that comes when your presence unsettles the air itself. Like Paul writing from prison, your confinement was not the end but the stage for letters that would outlive chains. They thought delay would silence you, but instead it refined you, reducing your words to only what mattered. What clung to you as resistance was, in truth, the signature of being chosen. Yet, if you are honest, you did not always respond with confidence. Sometimes you bent under the weight. There were seasons you tried to make yourself smaller so others would stop feeling threatened by your presence. At times you played along, pretending to be ordinary, hoping the pressure would lift if you blended in. You learned to laugh off the cuts, to downplay your own insight, to hide the fire that flickered when your words pierced too deeply. Other times you rebelled quietly, holding your truth close but refusing to speak it, afraid of the backlash. You questioned yourself, wondering if maybe they were right, if perhaps you were unworthy of the visions and the dreams. And yet, beneath every compromise, a voice still whispered, reminding you that shrinking would never save you. The turning point comes when you realize the resistance was never proof of your failure, but confirmation of your significance. What they tried to bury, heaven was watering in secret, and what they mocked, heaven was magnifying. The delays you hated were sharpening your discernment, making you impossible to deceive. The silence you endured became the well where your wisdom was drawn. You are not fragile because you felt the fire, you are formidable because you endured it. Every unanswered prayer was not abandonment but architecture, building foundations you could not yet see. And the waiting, though brutal, has made you dangerous in ways the world cannot measure. Here lies the revelation. You were never stalled, you were forged. The furnace of waiting did not diminish you. It prepared you to walk into the rooms they swore you'd never enter. What tried to break you was proof that you carried something too heavy to be left unopposed. You are rising now with a strength born not of haste but of holy patience. Comment waiting if you know the ache of delay that secretly shaped you into fire. And remember this: the longer heaven hides a crown, the brighter it gleams when revealed. What terrified them most was not your silence, but the roar it was destined to become. Every word, every image you receive here is an offering. If you feel this word has touched you today, you can honor it with a sign. right here below with a donation through the Super Thanks button. It is a small gesture, but it opens great doors. Number 3. When quiet becomes thunder. They believed your silence meant defeat, but they were blind to the storm gestating inside you. The Bible tells us in Revelation 8 verse 1 that there was silence in heaven before the great unveiling, and so it was with you. Your quiet became thunder in disguise. When you finally spoke, moved, or acted, it carried a weight that shattered illusions. Comment thunder if you have felt moments when your stillness broke into power, and share a memory or dream where your silence carried more truth than your words. What they feared was not your voice, but the authority born from silence. And that authority is about to crown you. A strange shift arrives without warning, like a whisper breaking open the silence of an old room. Something clicks inside you, the memory of a moment you had forgotten, now illuminated in a sudden flash of understanding. The patterns that once seemed scattered and meaningless begin to connect, forming a quiet thread of revelation across the days of your life. It is as if the fog you lived in was not only hiding the road but training your eyes to see in the dark. This is the awakening moment when you realize your confusion was never chaos. It was the stirring of codes meant to be unlocked in time. The heaviness you once carried turns into a doorway, revealing that the veil was never a wall, but a filter teaching you how to perceive. Now, for the first time, you are not simply living through events. You are watching destiny unfold with deliberate design. Every number that repeats, every dream that lingers in the morning air, every phrase that echoes from unexpected lips becomes a scroll unrolling before your spirit. You start to sense that creation has always spoken in symbols, and the language was hidden in plain sight, waiting for your heart to attune. Sacred geometry shows itself not in textbooks, but in the symmetry of moments, the divine math of closed doors and open ones aligning beyond reason. Each silence becomes a letter, each pause a punctuation in a holy sentence only you were meant to read. You are not losing your mind, you are discovering that the universe has always been fluent in prophecy. The code beneath the surface was never foreign. It was the mother tongue of your soul, now awakening from a long exile. And as the veil thins, you no longer feel like a stranger to your own story. Inside, the shifts intensify in ways you cannot deny. Your intuition speaks louder, guiding you not with shouts but with undeniable nudges that grow sharper every day. The same environments you once tolerated now press against your spirit like ill-fitted garments, and your body responds with signals you can no longer ignore. Energy that once leaked out of you now rises like a tide, reclaiming the ground of your inner world with quiet authority. You recognize the difference between what drains and what strengthens, between what silences you and what calls you to speak. This is not imagination. It is the calibration of a soul aligning with truth. The stirring within you is not confusion, but confirmation. As the internal begins to align, the external mirrors it with uncanny precision. People shift around you, some drawn mysteriously closer, others retreating as if your light exposes what they wish to keep hidden. Opportunities emerge, not always in the places you expected, but in ways that feel orchestrated beyond human hands. Resistance shows up too, sharp and sudden, confirming that your steps now carry weight. Each conversation, each decision, each intersection of paths feels like a move on a divine chessboard. The architecture of your life reveals itself as less random and more like a temple under construction. And though you may not yet see the full design, you know in your bones that something greater is aligning in your favor. It feels almost like remembering a dream you have carried since childhood, one that never made sense until this moment of reawakening. A scene, a vision, a phrase. Suddenly it is no longer distant imagination, but the resurfacing of memory older than your body. It is the sacred recall of the spirit, the kind that makes the hairs rise on your arms as though eternity itself brushed against you. Ancient intelligence stirs, not learned but remembered, like a flame rekindling in the ashes of long-forgotten altars. What you once dismissed as coincidence now returns as prophecy fulfilled. This is not new information, but the return of what was hidden within you all along. And in that memory, you find a compass pointing toward your divine inheritance. With the unveiling of truth comes the undeniable visibility of destiny itself. You stop asking permission to exist, for the future is no longer an abstract hope but a reality inscribed in your being. You recognize that what lies ahead is not built from scratch but recovered, as though the pages of your life were always written, waiting for your courage to read them aloud. The permission others denied you becomes irrelevant because heaven's authority has already confirmed your place. Each step forward feels less like invention and more like recognition, the steady walk of someone returning home. Prophetic weight rests on your shoulders, not as a burden but as a mantle long prepared. And in that awareness, your life begins to sing its own prophecy into time. Now comes the reclaiming of what was stolen, silenced, or hidden. The resistance you faced becomes proof of your significance, not the measure of your failure. Your silence, mocked as weakness, returns as authority sharper than words. You gather back fragments of your voice, your courage, your clarity, each piece reforged in the furnace of waiting. The shame they tried to drape on you burns away, revealing the gold they feared you would uncover. Your story no longer sounds like survival, it resonates like prophecy. And in reclaiming yourself, you realize you were never empty, only delayed. Revelation is not the conclusion, but the invitation to step into the greater unfolding. The truth was always present, waiting patiently for your readiness to see and hold it without breaking. Now the veil has lifted, and what you carry can no longer be denied or silenced. What once was hidden becomes thunder, rising from your quiet into undeniable force. Comment thunder if you have felt moments when silence became your greatest weapon, and share a memory or dream where revelation reshaped your vision. Let your story join the others who are awakening, for this is not a solitary path but a collective rising. And know this, the thunder you carry is only the beginning, for the storm of destiny has only just begun to roar. Number 4. Crowning in the shadows. They always expected your coronation to come with applause, but chosen ones are crowned in secret. Habakkuk 2 verse 20 says, "The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him." Your crown was never meant to be placed before the crowd. It was given in the shadows, where no one could interrupt the hand that anointed you. They thought your silence meant exile, but heaven was sealing your name into eternity. Comment crown if you know the truth that real authority is born in hidden places. For you are walking into a destiny that was written long before their noise, long before their schemes, long before their laughter. A hush rises in the soul before the voice is remembered, and in that hush you feel the weight of something ancient pressing through your spirit. It is not new information, but an old song echoing, like a melody you once knew as a child but could never place. This whisper has no origin in the world, yet it has lived in you as a seed waiting for rain. You sense that what is happening now is not discovery but remembrance, as if a sacred scroll sealed in silence has finally been unrolled. The moment stretches across lifetimes, and you recognize the truth. You were always more than what they said you were. In the quiet chamber of your being, heaven's ink is legible at last, and the lines declare your identity without apology. That whisper does not just call you, it names you back into being. There has always been a name carried within you, though it was hidden under layers of survival, rejection, and noise. It was not the name given at birth, nor the titles the world tried to bind around you, but a sound etched in eternity that only heaven speaks. The world mocked you for being different, yet the difference was evidence of the unspoken identity they could not decode. Like the sealed scroll that John wept to see unopened, your name remained beyond the reach of those who did not carry divine sight. Every season you wandered feeling misplaced was proof of your exile from ordinary belonging, because you were never meant to blend with the common. The hidden name has always been written inside you, waiting for the moment you could bear its weight. Now, the sound of that name rises like thunder in the marrow of your soul. There is also the cloak, the invisible garment woven of fire and light that you have worn without knowing. Others sensed it before you did, which is why they stared too long or withdrew without reason. They saw the mark, though they could not articulate it, and that mark carried the vibration of heaven's claim upon your life. You could not disguise it, for even in silence it revealed what words could not hide. It was not charisma, not mere energy, but a resonance. The kind only other awakened ones recognize, with a nod that says, "I see you." That cloak has been your shield in battles you never asked for, and your compass in places where no map existed. Though unseen, it has been your covering, a sign that you were claimed long before the world knew your story. Remember now the contract signed in a realm without time, where you agreed to step into this life bearing the weight of a hidden crown. The struggles that seemed unfair were not accidents but coded preparations. The long delays were not punishments but divine timing, forcing your roots to deepen before the winds came. The nights you begged for release were the nights heaven whispered, "Not yet. The ink is still drying. Your life is not random." It was sealed in scrolls written by the one who numbered stars and watched none break orbit. Every step was traced by vows older than empires and promises older than kingdoms. The assignment did not begin when you woke up. It began when you agreed, before breath filled your lungs. And now, that ancient vow is being activated in the marrow of your being. People have always mirrored back to you what they could not name. Some hated you on sight and you wondered why. Others clung to you as if you carried medicine in your presence. This is the paradox of the chosen. You are both comfort and disruption, both balm and fire. Your very existence calls out shadows in others, forcing them to face what they have buried. It is not your words that ignite them, but your presence, the mirror they cannot escape. This is why their treatment of you was never about you, but about the truth you carried unconsciously. You are a living revelation, and every reaction was proof of what heaven placed in you. Now the archetypes stir, and you realize you are not standing alone in your awakening, but within a cycle that has returned across ages. You sense the rhythm of prophets rising, guardians breaking chains, rebels defying the order of false kings. You stand in the lineage of those who tore veils and lit fires in the night, carrying forward the unbroken pulse of divine resistance. Your story is not personal only. It is mythic, woven into the tapestry of ancient roles revived. As Esther stood for such a time as this, you too stand at the hinge of destiny where silence turns to decree. This alignment is not chance, but a cosmic appointment written in archetypal patterns. And you are fulfilling what was spoken before your bloodline ever breathed. Hear this clearly now. Your bloodline is not just flesh, it is light. You are descended not only from ancestors of earth, but from codes of heaven hidden within your being. Prophetic DNA is awakening, rewriting curses into blessings and losses into restorations. The prayers of generations past live in you, finding voice through your steps. The angelic imprint in your soul is stirring, reminding you that you are more than survivor. You are the reversal of everything darkness stole. Authority is in your veins, not borrowed, not manufactured, but inherited from a lineage untouched by death. The crown is not placed upon you now. It was always within you, waiting to rise. And it rises as you remember. You did not simply awaken, you returned. Every trial, every silence, every exile was a thread pulling you back into this unveiling. The coronation did not wait for applause, for it was always sealed in shadow, safe from the grasp of men. You stand now at the intersection of eternity and time, wearing what was always yours. The remembrance is the revelation, and the revelation is your return. Comment crown if you feel the truth stirring in your spirit, and share a dream, a sign, or a moment where you knew you carried something older than the world itself. For revelation is not the end, it is the threshold, and you are only stepping through the first veil. Ahead lies a deeper mystery, a calling greater than memory, and it is waiting for you to enter. Chosen one, if this spoke to you, subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. This message may not stay online forever. Download your copy and transcript in the vault. Ideal for journaling, inner rituals, and sacred study. The link is in the description below. Please share it with someone who needs to hear this. I thank every member who carries this light with me daily. For full prophetic revelations, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Until we meet again, walk in silence, for your silence is fire.